pains that disturb your ability to function all day. That's not normal. Even like this type of stubborn weight gain is not necessarily normal, but it's common, right? So the kinds of, and I would argue that certain, because I'm also do cosmetic TCM, I would argue that there's certain facial aging symptoms that are also not normal, but they're common. So there's two messages in this slide. One is that the changes you experience are normal and nothing to be depressed about. But like suffering is not inevitable just because we're aging. Okay, so what's the TCM explanation for why stubborn weight gain is happening? Is, again, back to that slide, is this idea of we do have, to some degree, a natural waning of our energy. And we would say kidney energy system. So I put kidney here first because kidney is like one of our power apps. Earlier we were talking about our apps, right? Kidney organ system is like our main battery. When the kidney is exhausted, we pass from this body. And when we come into this human life, our kidneys kind of hold we say essence. In Chinese medicine, we say there's a type of energy called essence, and it captures the idea of like the DNA and the genetic strength and the genetic blueprint that we bring in. Some of us have a weaker genetic blueprint. Maybe we're sickly since we were young. Some of us have like an athletic champion, not me, but some people obviously do. That kind of genetic blueprint. So that's like the kidney essence. That's what we bring in. And that's part of the strength that your kidney system carries. And that is something that can get wasted if we don't take care of it in our lives. So what's something that wastes our kidney essence is overworking, chronic emotional stress and trauma. That kind of wastes our kidney energy. For men, it's like, being hypersexual and like ejaculating too much, like that's literally a loss of essence, because ejaculate for men is a type of kidney essence. For women, it's more wrapped up in our menstruation and our like deep internal fluids that don't really express themselves outward, but we have it, right? So there's kidney essence, which I actually forgot to put on here, but there's also kidney. The main types of kidney energy that we deal with on a day-to-day basis is more kidney yang and kidney yin. So what does kidney yang deficiency look like? So, because if people tell me, or someone says to you, I have kidney deficiency, in your mind you have to go, oh, which type of kidney deficiency? Because there's one where you're just really cold and sluggish, and then one type where you're just really dry. Okay, so if you have kidney yang deficiency, you're just cold all the time. You're that person that it's like 80 degrees out and you're still wearing a sweater. And you hate being cold, like you're averse to it. You're that person that's like, people are like, wait a second, why is the heat turned up so high? Kidney yang, actually both kidney yin and yang deficiency can bring lower back and knee problems. But as soon as you see chronic lower back and knee, we're thinking kidney. Something's off. The kidney app is a little off. Low libido. If you pee a lot and it's just clear, it's just like the water's just not holding and it's just constantly, you're drinking it and it's coming out, right out, that could be kidney yang deficiency. Usually having one of these symptoms doesn't mean you have kidney yang deficiency. You have to have a few. I would say 3. You can get edema, you can get loose stools really easily. Kidney yin deficiency is more dry. You're literally dry. Your skin, your hair, your throat, your bowels, vaginal dryness, all dry. And this is where we can get the hot flashes and the night sweats is very commonly inside of that kidney yin deficiency pattern. So when the kidney app is buggy in this way, these things happen. Okay, so these are the symptoms of the bug, not, you know what I mean, not like a bug, but like the bug, the dysfunction. Insomnia, mental restlessness. So Samantha, that's what I'm kind of thinking might be waning for you, is maybe your kidney yin, because you're experiencing some of that rise in the symptoms that you mentioned, like the ADHD and the insomnia. It's giving me like some kidney yin vibes. Okay, so what's another app that goes out of tune, that gets buggy, is the spleen. So this is a digestion system that's kind of in crisis. Maybe not crisis like, urgent crampy diarrhea all the time crisis, but a subtle internal functional crisis. And that can be at the heart of stubborn weight gain. And I would say this is one of the main patterns that we see with midlife weight gain that is stubborn and weight loss that is difficult, is it's in the spleen system. Now, the spleen system is really interesting because people often get confused because they're like, why are you talking about spleen if we're talking about digestion? And that's because in Chinese medicine, the spleen organ is a key organ or key power app of digestion. So it works hand in hand with the stomach. They're like dancing partners. So you'll often hear TCM practitioners say spleen stomach weakness, or spleen stomach, some kind of spleen and stomach problem, because they're paired. And spleen in Western physiology, I think, has more to do with the immune system and red blood cell creation. In Chinese medicine, it also is responsible for the quality of your blood, we would say, and also how well you manage fluids. Actually, spleen and kidney both manage fluids. So the biggest tie, though, that I think is super interesting to the Western physiology is blood sugar management. So spleen, we say in Chinese medicine, governs the muscles, right? It governs the absorption of nutrients. And when you think of like its connection to muscles, so like having a healthy spleen means having healthy muscles. Think about where blood sugar metabolism happens. It's in your muscles, right? And so there's an interesting crossover there between Eastern and Western ideas on how the body works. So when we think about midlife weight gain, we think a lot about blood sugar management, right? Or a weakness or deficiency in blood sugar management. Maybe you have too much insulin. Maybe your body has trouble with that insulin release that helps the blood sugar store, or that whole system of blood sugar is very much similar to the Chinese idea of spleen energy. So when spleen energy is weak, it's hard to manage your blood sugar. When you can't manage your blood sugar, you are just storing fat and gaining weight, right? So that is where the spleen comes in to weight gain. That is very similar to that, like, I can't manage my blood sugar type of weight gain, right? Which is most weight gain. So does that make sense? Did I explain that clearly? Does anyone have questions? Okay. So that's our spleen. So the frequent signs, if your spleen app is off, it's not just the weight gain, you're also bloated all the time. And you feel full, like your stomach just always feels like the food didn't actually digest. That's a very common symptom of spleen weakness. And again, you can gain weight easily. You feel low energy, especially after you eat. That's a classic sign of like spleen and stomach weakness. Also loose stools. So when the spleen is weak, the fluid management is off, so it kind of dumps into the stool, and you tend to get that sticky, soft stool that's hard to clean. That's very spleen weakness vibes. It's easy to retain water. Again, the fluid management is off. Actually, I forgot to put on here, when the spleen is weak, you bruise easily, because we say in Chinese medicine that the spleen also manages the strength of your blood vessels. So when they easily break, that can be a spleen weakness. So I should put in here, I'll put it, oops. I don't know if I can edit while I'm presenting. Oh, I'm in presentation mode. I can't. Okay, so I would put bruising on here, easily bruises. Your muscles are weak, right? And with spleen weakness, because spleen manages muscle. Yeah, what else? Oh, yeah, you can actually, spleen weakness can also come with like a lack of appetite. So some people will experience it that way, or they just don't feel like eating. But I think a lot of weight gain has to do with actually eating for comfort. So I think a lot of people in American culture, I don't really see a lot of lack of appetite in American culture. Okay, so what are some common causes? What can make your spleen weak? So some of us have constitutional spleen weakness, which means that we're sort of born with a tendency to have spleen weakness. And there's a lot of people that are born like that. I forget which Ayurvedic pattern that is, but it's very similar to one of the Ayurvedic patterns. And Pitta? No, I can't remember. Don't quote me. I have no idea on the Ayurveda, but I know that it correlates to one of their patterns. So, very common cause in Western culture, specifically American culture, is overconsumption of cold foods. I should have put iced foods on here, iced drinks, iced water. I know you guys have heard me talk about this incessantly, but it's like for real a problem. And also raw food, so like raw veggies. So I think about like sort of the classic like healthy American female diet is salad, especially if we're in our like 45, 50s, like we grew up thinking like salad was health food. I remember that, like chicken breast and like iceberg lettuce and like just a little bit of dressing, right? So I just see that and I see it in like popular media too. It's just like you always see women just eating salads. That is that can be harmful to your spleen over time, and B, it's not nutrient dense enough. And I think that when we don't eat enough nutrients, we also don't develop power and chi. So that can also weaken our organs, right? Is not getting the right nutrition, just always eating salads. So obviously eating too many sugary processed foods, that's just a no-brainer. That's a no for the spleen. Again, not eating nutrient or energy-rich foods. So salads are not energy-rich. If we're talking about like your classic salad with just like a bunch of raw leaves and a few pieces of chicken and a little bit of protein is just not enough, especially if it's like a staple of your diet. Salad for dinner, salad for lunch, and that's all you eat. And I've seen this in some women. That's not enough. That's not enough power. Chronic stress and overthinking is a classic enemy of the spleen. It just harms the spleen, especially the energy of worry, overthinking, always worried, thinking about what's going to go wrong, and worry. That can also make your spleen buggy. If you eat too many, what we say, damp forming foods, which is like dairy, greasy fried foods, I would probably include like breads on here. If you eat too much of that damp forming food, that can also clog up your spleen function, which is to digest your food well. I should mention that the spleen is responsible for nutrient absorption, which is that part of digestion. So in your digestive system, we chop up food into little pieces, right? You have all these like enzymes that do that, and then your body can absorb it into your bloodstream as nutrients. That's all the spleen's work. It does a lot of jobs. And that's why it's like partially responsible for blood quality, because how it cuts up your food and distributes it into your bloodstream is what makes your blood have quality, right? So the other aspect of digestion is elimination, right? So that's more large intestine. But the spleen, is, so I was going somewhere with this. It'll come back to me. But yeah, it's part of, so that's why we say the spleen is crucial to digesting. So like getting the food, moving down the tract and getting it sliced up into like your little amino acids and peptides and all that. That's the spleen's responsibility. So if your spleen is weak, that's not happening. You're not absorbing food, and food could just be stuck in the tract, getting sluggish and sludgy. That's going to lead to one of the next patterns. But these are the things that can cause the spleen to get buggy and weak. The liver is an important organ to talk about, your liver organ app. Especially when it comes to hormonal changes, because the liver, everything hormonal has to do with the liver. So the liver manages hormones. We would say that in Chinese medicine, the liver manages hormones. So now, what are signs that your liver organ is off or your liver app is buggy? You are constantly irritable, you're frustrated all the time, your mood swings are like this. This is liver. Okay, and this can cause emotional eating. So that can also help lead to weight gain. You're tight. Liver is just making everything feel tight in the body. You feel a lot. You can easily feel discomfort along the ribs. That's a classic sign of liver qi stagnation. So when the liver app is buggy, it's not so much that it's weak, it's that it gets stuck. It gets stagnated. Right? It stops moving. It just goes like this. It's tight. Liver gets tight. Whereas the spleen gets weak. There's no energy. I can't push the food, Kidneys also doesn't have the energy. Like the kidney is supposed to be this beautiful balance of sending fire through your body, but also balancing the fire with water. So when the kidney is weak, it can't do any of that. So it's just like a smoky mess, but there's no fire, and it's just like steaming, smoky mess, if that makes sense. You can tend to gain weight easily, and especially like get belly fat, because with the liver, there's that stress connection. With liver, the liver is not able to help you manage stress, because that's what our liver does for us. It helps us manage stress. So when that's off, we get that cortisol belly, right? So cortisol stress, we would call that a liver situation. Let me move a little faster. There's a frequent sighing is liver. It's stuck. It's tight. There's a frequent symptom called, what we call it plum pit chi, where you feel like you have phlegm stuck in your throat, but you don't. That can be liver qi stagnation. Any menstrual irregularity, I'm thinking about your liver. Does anyone have questions so far? I'm going to start moving a little quicker so I can get through everything. But earlier I was talking about how when your spleen is weak and it's just not able to cut up your food into the little nutrients that then get sent into your blood and become healthy blood, become healthy hair, become healthy skin, healthy tissue, healthy muscle, right? When that gets sluggish, when the spleen function gets sluggish, then it's like the process of taking food and having it become the nutrients that enliven your blood, when that gets jammed up, you can get sludgy, right? Things get sludgy. Think of like when you're washing your dishes, right? And you're using cold water, right? Because the spleen and stomach hate cold. They hate cold. It's their enemy. So imagine washing your dishes with cold water and just the sludge that would remain. And then imagine washing your dishes with hot water. and how clean and crisp and clear that dish is, right? So it's kind of that idea of like that sludge, because things just can't move through the system sufficiently. Does that make sense? So then we accumulate, we call it phlegm dampness in Chinese medicine. It has the vibe of humidity. You know, when like it's summer or you go to like a tropical destination where the air is so thick, you never feel dry. Has anyone ever been to a place like that? And you're just kind of uncomfortable because like your clothes are still wet. You just feel heavy.
I live in that. That's like where I live.
Oh, right. Do you live in Hawaii?
Yeah, and we're in that. It's like damp heat right now, and it's so intense. And I got an air conditioner, and I just like live in that space as much as possible. But yeah, I live in that, and I can't now that I'm like hot all the time. I cannot wait for winter. I used to be the opposite. Yeah.
Well, that situation can happen internally. So metaphor.
Yeah.
Yes. And that's what we call dampness. So dampness is extreme humidity, excess humidity in the body. And if it gets so excessive, it will actually become goo. Like it'll become, like when you get sick and you cough up mucus, that's a visible phlegm. There's all kinds of non-visible phlegm in the body. And we recognize that in Chinese medicine. Just because we can't see it doesn't mean we don't recognize it's there, because we can tell it's there when things aren't functioning as they should be. And then certain symptoms, which I'll go over, tell us that that's there. So we can tell if you have sludgy phlegm dampness. Did I say that once it becomes dampness, it becomes phlegm? So first things start as energy stagnation, where it hasn't taken form yet. That's like when you feel stressed. That's when your like energy is starting to stagnate. Now just apply years and years of that unrelenting stress. It's going to take form. First, it might take the form of dampness, just like in the air when it just feels heavy. And then it could take the form of actual phlegm. And then another type of phlegm stagnation in the body is tumors. So we see tumors in Chinese medicine as a stagnation of phlegm and blood. So it's this dysfunction of movement that causes a physical mass. So it could be benign or malignant, which if it's malignant, it would also have, we would say, toxic heat. Okay, so that's a bit of Chinese medicine physiology, which would help explain how do we know you have dampness and phlegm stagnation. You feel heavy and sluggish all the time. Your head is foggy. You're foggy internally. This is a type of stubborn weight pattern, right? If you have several of these, we know you have phlegm dampness stagnation. Again, persistent bloating, always full. Swelling or water retention. It's very similar, these symptoms, to the spleen deficiency. But it's like there's even more of this like heaviness, sluggishness, inability to like move. What's interesting in phlegm dampness stagnation is you could be dehydrated but not thirsty. And that's because your body's just so full of water, but it's not, the water isn't in the right place and it's not moving where it should be. But that's why you feel not thirsty, but you're actually dehydrated because the water isn't where it's supposed to be. So of course there can be literal congestion where you have, let's say, like congestion in the lungs, where you can actually produce phlegm or mucus, or in the sinuses. We would say that if you have like excessively oily skin and hair, that this could be a sign of phlegm dampness. And then, of course, for people that have that tendency to develop cysts and like nodules, that's phlegm stagnation. That's actually phlegm. That's not even just dampness anymore. That's phlegm. So phlegm dampness is probably the key pattern to stubborn weight gain and difficulty losing weight. That and spleen deficiency are the top patterns.
I have a question, Sandra.
Yes.
what if I vacillate between, like, I have that stagnation, a lot of what was on there, but I'm like really thirsty most of the time. So, but I'll go between feeling like super sluggish and super damp and no energy and no appetite. But then, and maybe it's because then I like correct things, and then I'm like, I have so much energy, and it's like, it just then it's like my stomach is flat again, and I don't have the bloating, and everything feels really good. But then it's like the slightest thing will take me back to the sluggishness, and I'm wondering if that has to do with like the liver, because that's always been my like my weak spot is liver qi stagnation, like my whole life. So I'm
vacillating between sluggish and energetic. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. Like, I don't always have all those symptoms. When I do, it feels really like tough.
And did that have to do with, if you were to think about like what's happening around those moments where you dip into that sluggishness, is there anything that you can identify that might have changed in your routine, like a bad night of sleep, or the weather is excessively damp, or a stress event?
Well, one thing that I really got from your insomnia class, which I watched the playback, is like things are really all over the place for me. So sometimes I have a great night of sleep. Sometimes I get my period. Other times I don't. And so I actually started taking the Circufine.
Okay.
And that has helped. So one of my worst symptoms for the last 3 years has been breast tenderness, like to the point where I had to buy new bras, and like my breasts were always uncomfortable, like always painful. And it's gotten better since I did the summer body challenge with you a few months ago. Like that has made a huge difference in changing, like eliminating the cold foods and iced things and salads and whatever.
Yes.
But the Circufine, it's even more. I'm like, ooh, my boobs are finally getting like smaller. Like they're like restoring, like it's just, they don't feel so uncomfortable. And like the side boob is getting smaller. Like things feel better. But one time an acupuncturist said like, oh, your liver attacks your spleen. It's like the liver is like the sort of main source of all of it. So I'm just wondering, and if this is too much too like let me know. But
that's what this class is for.
Okay, I am all over the place. It's so hard for me to stay regulated, and that's how I've been my entire life. I also have a lot of childhood trauma, which I've really resolved like so much of. So now it's like teaching my body how to be regulated, like clearing out these ancestral patterns. And it's the liver and gallbladder that is like that's the pattern of my ancestors that I am like really changing for myself and my children. But I am like, it's really hard for me to stay regulated. Last night I slept 10 hours without waking up, and I literally was like, oh my God, thank you. Like I woke up and said out loud, thank you so much.
Yes.
Because the night before and the night before that, I was awake till 5 a.m., So I'm just really all over the place.
Okay, and how long have you felt all over the place?
I mean, so acutely, like in this way, for the last 3 years. I mean, I didn't really sleep for a year and a half, from like age 46 to like 47 and a half.
Okay.
I didn't sleep.
Yeah, so your body's definitely making up for a lot of that right now. Okay, so let's break this down a little bit. So I think, well, first of all, Circufine is good. Are you also taking I forget the English name of it. Jake, do you know what the Jiawei Xiaoyao?
Yeah, it's the free and easy wander.
Yeah. Free and easy wander. Do you take that as well?
Yeah, I mean, I've been taking that since I was 20, and it's like, it's a best friend for sure. But I take breaks. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, if you've been taking that since you're 20, there are stronger formulas that are in that family of liver movers that you could try. Like, it's kind of nice to shake it up a little bit because your body might just get used to it. So, yeah, there are some that you could think about that could give your liver a little bit more of a boost in moving. I think of Free and Easy Wander as like light liver support. It's good, it's great, but when I need a heavy liver support, I'm thinking about some other Chinese formulas that we could help you with. If you write us support at Lanxin, we could, and then maybe Jake, you can send. I'm sorry, I don't want to get Fozia, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Fozia, like an intake form, and then we can. If you don't mind filling out an intake form, then I can see everything, and we could recommend a stronger formula for you with like one of those tablet formulas. I wouldn't do it much stronger without doing like a full intake because I don't want to prescribe something without really having examined you, like even just like, telehealth examination. So, but we can certainly set you up with something that comes in those pill forms because those are our lighter types of herbs. But just because they're lighter doesn't mean they don't work. It's just they're not as heavy hitting as like a custom formula that comes from a powder. You can also get those if you work with an acupuncturist.
Yeah, I was actually curious if you do telehealth. I just haven't been able to find an herbalist who actually knows what they're doing when it comes to perimenopause and menopause. And my herbalist, she retired, and so I'm looking for one good.
We do telehealth, but when we do it, we can only do it as like health coaching. Like we can't give you a diagnosis because of out of state. So, but we can like suggest formulas, right? So we could look into it a little bit further of how custom we can get. I think Jake looked into it for me at some point. I forget how custom we can get with you. We'll figure it out. So let me just say that I think that it sounds like you need more support for your liver to me. And I'm not a naturopath, so I'm not I'm not an expert in nutrients, but I do think about what nutrients we might be missing as we approach menopause. Because once the estrogen system is complete, it will reveal what's actually underlying. So actually it's almost let me just let Jake. Hey Jake, we're good. This is a easy small class.
Okay.
I don't mind if you want to bounce
because no problem.
So because I just want to I'll probably go like a little late just to cover everything and I can see her at the studio, so why don't you just go home?
Yeah, okay. I'll just keep the laptop running and recording as we did last time.
Okay.
At the end of the meeting, hit end meeting for all.
Yes, I will.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Jake. Okay, so what was I saying? Liver is a really key organ for everybody as we come into perimenopause and menopause. So some of you will also have like a dominant kidney pattern or a dominant spleen pattern, but almost everybody, we need to address your liver in this transition. So I think that's my guess, is that when the liver is dysregulated, it can feel like you're sensitive to the little change. One little change and everything's off.
That's how I feel. I feel very complex and like very sensitive, and I have been my whole life. Okay. I basically spent my entire life like trying to heal these things, and then I've become a practitioner through all the things that I've done. So I feel very grateful, and I feel very set up for success. But I'm very sensitive, all over the place, very complex.
Okay. And I think that for people who are highly sensitive people, part of the key is just also knowing that, and knowing that you're just like a different kind of breed, right? It's like with horses, there's thoroughbred racehorses. They're just a different breed. They need different things. And because that's not recognized in our culture, when you're a unique kind of breed, everything makes you feel not okay, like something's wrong with you, you're abnormal, da 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 da. And that's just a belief system that we don't have to buy into, and we shouldn't.
Absolutely. That's something I've really embraced, I think, in the last couple of years. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
And I think that's important for this transition, because we need all the support, whether it's emotional, whether it's physical, that we can to get through the change, because it's a major change. To end our menstrual life is a big change. And same with, entering our menstrual life. That's a huge change and extremely emotional, right? So I think we have to look beyond just what's happening in our body and look at the culture we live in, and recognize that the culture makes it very difficult in some ways for us to be us, right? And for us to be energetically vibrant, we need to be able to be ourselves, right, in the world. And unfortunately, we live in a culture that doesn't make that very easy. And that's why, and later there's a slide that mentions this, but that's why we have to stick together in community. That is our antidote, and that's our way out. So that's why I like having these sessions, and we want to do more and more of them as time goes on, because we need to be able to come together with people that are not just like-minded, but like-hearted, and together we get through these times, with personal times, meaning like our body transitions, but also the larger times, because what is happening in the world right now affects every one of us every day. And, going through a menopause transition is very difficult with that additional stressor, right? So, but I think what I'm trying to say is that we have to constantly affirm to ourselves that what we're going through is A-okay, right? A sleepless night. I had a difficult night of sleep yesterday. It's fine. It's fine. Moving on, right? It's going to happen. So I think the key is not to let those things get you stuck. And I'm not saying that you're doing this, Rosia, but some people do, is that, just get so frustrated that I couldn't sleep. That's so frustrating. And it is frustrating to not be able to sleep. But if we can practice just moving on and going about our day, every day is different, And so all of these changes are okay. And there's no perfection here, right? So we, I think, live in a world where there's this idea that there's some kind of picture of perfect health. And I don't think that exists. I think health is day to day. I think that we should celebrate when we have a day where we feel good. And when we don't, it's fine, because there's tomorrow. You know what I mean? So sometimes not anymore. I'll share with you an old password. I like to make my passwords mantras or affirmations, because you have to constantly type them. So one of my favorites is all is well. So I think we do have to remind ourselves that all is well, because because living all is well is a choice and a practice. So that's what I choose, because my body functions better inside of that space. And it's not to say I'm not aware of what's going on in the world that is where people need support. That's not what I'm saying. But while it's true that there can be things that are very off in the world, there are also things in the world that are very well. And we have to hold all of that. And I don't think we hold enough of this side as a culture of like, where is all is well? Where is it? It's there. So that's also really important in this transition because we're so easily emotionally, we're like a kite in the wind a little bit emotionally at this transition, right? Any little thing and we just go whoop. So these kinds of practices that affirm what I would say is a reality in the world that we don't often recognize because our world is just structured in a way where we just get fed news and the news is never good. But that's not necessarily reflecting 100% of reality. It's just the part of reality that media companies choose to show us. So we have to affirm, or what, I'm talking on the level of media, but whatever is going on in your life, right? And wherever you're receiving input. So we just have to continue to affirm that also all is well because, I'm sitting here, you're sitting here, we're sitting here together, and everything's okay right now, right? So anyway, that's a bit of a tangent, but that is important for our emotional health, and that's important for our liver because we also have to know how to soothe ourselves. That's how we soothe the liver and keep the liver app running, without interruption. And so, yeah. But let me see, did I answer your question? I think, yeah, I would look into liver support.
Yeah.
And then just, because I don't think anything you're saying is super abnormal. It sounds about right. I think maybe if we can just even out some of those edges for you, then that would be nice.
Thank you. Yeah, that was amazing. Thanks.
Okay, You're welcome.
Thank you.
Where was I? Oh, let's continue with, okay, so we're going over a little bit if that's okay with everyone. I'll try not to go over too far. So, but what are the causes of the back to the phlegm accumulation, phlegm dampness accumulation? What causes it? Many of the same things that cause spleen weakness will cause phlegm accumulation. Phlegm dampness accumulation is almost like a phase 3 or like a later phase or a later stage of spleen weakness. It's where spleen weakness has become so long term that now we're seeing sludge. So things like, eating too many damp forming foods, again, can cause this. Chronically weak spleen and kidney energy can cause this. Chronic stress just like pelts your liver. Being too sedentary, because the liver likes movement. So anything that gives you movement will help your liver. But like Fozia mentioned before, too heavy of cardio exercise can also be too much, like exercise and energy output. So too much exercise in that vein of like cardio, like heavy cardio, can also be harmful in a way. So hormonal fluctuations can just, disrupt things. So there's already like a basis for accumulations or stagnation. Insufficient sleep, of course, because if we don't sleep, we don't have that power for things to move in the body and for things to work and process, for the gears to turn. And the big one is eating too late at night. That is real bad for, spleen energy and good digestion movement as we get older. Let me see. Oh, and Perfos, damp, humid climates can exacerbate all of this. Okay, so next.
Sandra, I have a hopefully quick question. I'm just curious if anyone else experiences this, but I try not to eat before bed, but a lot of times I have insomnia and then I'm starving and I have to wake up and like make a cheese quesadilla in the middle of the night.
Have you tried the hack of sucking on a salt rock?
No.
That's a hack for if you're fasting, like for people that do water fasting, is just like get a salt rock and suck on it.
Okay.
I don't know how that would work at night. I don't know if that would make you thirsty and you want to drink something and you have to pee. But having a little salt on the tongue can sometimes help with hunger.
Okay.
Maybe a little sip of warm water instead of a cheese quesadilla. You could try it. Let me know if that helps.
I think it's a nervous system thing. I think it's just part of like my whole picture. But I will try that.
That is not uncommon either. So, yeah, try that and let me know if it works.
Okay.
And if it works, we'll share it with everyone. Okay, so this slide is titled Why Diets Don't Work, but it's really why the conventional approaches don't work. And to me, it's because, hormone replacement doesn't necessarily strengthen your kidney or your spleen. It just replaces a hormone that you used to have. And yes, that will help you feel emotionally more even, perhaps, or it will help calm down the heat. It will do something, it will create a functional shift for your body, totally. But it doesn't necessarily strengthen your organ systems. And that's in Chinese medicine what we're after. Oh, earlier I was saying this is that what I find is super fascinating about this dropout of estrogen is that I find it very revealing. So this system, we can call it an estrogen system. I do sometimes wonder if we center estrogen too much, because I don't think estrogen is the only thing that's changing, right? Obviously, we know testosterone is changing, but what about like serotonin and all the other neurochemicals? Like, are those changing too? And, is the story just about estrogen? So in Chinese medicine, we would say no. Well, we don't even, because Chinese medicine is so ancient, like we don't deal in microbiochemicals, right? But we can put things together with modern medicine. We can sort of take some of these old ancient concepts and they make sense with modern medicine too. So estrogen replacement, again, it's not necessarily strengthening your kidney or spleen or any of your organ systems. It's just replacing a biochemical in your body. And again, in the case of birth control, especially synthetic hormones, we're watchful of in Chinese medicine because they can stagnate the liver. Restrictive dieting doesn't work because it doesn't give you any power. Okay, plain and simple. We're looking for power at this age, not calorie reduction, So it just further weakens you to reduce your calories below a certain level that isn't actually sustaining you. Now, if someone is just overeating and eating way too many calories, that's a different situation. But I think a lot of women fall into this category where that's not what's happening. You're not overeating. You're not eating bad things. In fact, you could be not getting enough of the right foods. So, so restrictive dieting is not helpful. And then excessive exercise, which Fozia, you mentioned earlier, you can't do those same hard workouts and you feel like you crash out. So that is consistent with what we recognize happening at our age, which is the kidney systems are waning. We don't have the force in our body to do that, and that's normal. So those are some of the things that I hear hear a lot of people feel bummed about and feel like upset about, is that like not being able to exercise you were 20. I'm not saying that's you. I'm just saying I hear that kind of commentary a lot, like, yeah, I can't do it like I used to, that there's that sound in the voice. And so there's a sadness, and I understand that. But that's also just a matter of life. The flip side of that is to reach this age being such an accomplishment, in a difficult world, it's not easy to live on this planet. So if we make it to, menopause intact, that's pretty good. You could look at it that way. So, so excessive exercise, not so helpful.
Sandra, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Do you think that Qigong helps with, especially if it's targeted, certain Qigong exercises I know target the kidney, the liver, or different parts of the body? Do you think that helps in conjunction with what you are teaching us this evening?
Yes, I love Qigong. Qigong is part of what's called the internal martial arts. So if anyone isn't familiar with Qigong, Qi is energy, Qi. Gong means work. So it means energy work, but it means energy work in the sense of like tonifying and strengthening your energy. So it's like going to the gym, but for your energy, for the force. So love Qigong. It's part of what we call internal martial arts because it comes from martial arts. So if you picture like ancient monks who practice like really advanced forms of like martial arts fighting, they are actually also masters of internal martial arts, which is the art and the practice of strengthening your organ systems and strengthening your chi, and that helps them fight. So a lot of schools, or a lot of I think it's schools isn't the right word, but a lot of training for martial arts begins with internal martial arts, and Qigong is a type of internal martial art, as is Tai Chi. So they're a little bit different. Tai Chi is like a choreographed form. So if anyone's familiar with Ashtanga yoga is a yoga form that you do the same poses in the same order every day. So Tai Chi is a choreographed set of movements that are very slow, and they're designed to amplify the chi in your meridians, which means also in your organ system, because our energy meridians are extensions of our organ systems in Chinese medicine. So that's why, like, I can, this is part of my lung, right? This is part of my heart. So when you do Tai Chi and Qigong, a lot of these movements are designed to stimulate these channels and thereby strengthen your organ systems. So yes, I love Qigong and Tai Chi. 100% do it.
Thank you.
Okay, so what's the missing link? The moral of the story is we got to support our organs. Okay, that's the moral of the story. And that's what's missing with midlife weight gain. So let's talk about some solutions. Let's quickly go over them. A lot of these you've heard me talk about a million times. And Fozy is an expert in this slide here. But let's talk about some general solutions that everyone can do. And then I'm going to get into specifics for kidney, liver, spleen. But the biggest change that Americans can make is just embrace warmth. Even if you're having hot flashes, I know. Hot flashes are, usually short-lived, and they can be frustrating, but they don't have to be. We can change our mind about them being frustrating. It takes a little work, takes a little mental practice, but hot flashes don't have to ruin our day. And they don't have to be embarrassing. I mean, if this was a world run by menopausal women, which I would argue the world should be run by, people who aren't sweating would be weird. Like, why aren't you sweating? Okay? So look at it that way. We don't want to douse our digestive system in cold, even if you're having a hot flash. I'd rather you go into the fridge, grab something cold, and hold it in your palms to cool you down, than take something into your stomach. Because I don't want you to risk building up phlegm, dampness, accumulation, and I don't want you to risk weakening your stomach fire, your digestive fire, and your spleen's ability to take your food and turn it into delicious nutrients that will feed your skin, your muscles, your tissue, your hair, your energy. Okay? So if you embrace food, or warmth rather, I would challenge you for 30 days. Try this. I mean, luckily we're coming into winter, so it'll make this a little easier. But what if you only eat and drink warm things for a month? Just try it, okay? If you've been drinking ice drinks your whole life, it's going to take some time to reverse some of that effect of constant cold on the body, okay? But you can start here. Some of the easy recommendations are try cooking your veggies, okay? You could just steam them, you could roast them, just don't fry them. Instead of salads, I say embrace broths. I just posted about this if you go to our Instagram, but there is a common Chinese health proverb that goes, a bowl of soup before meals is better than a cup of medicine, which means, and by soup, I mean like a broth. I don't mean corn chowder. They're the things that are, I mean like a clear, soothing broth. Like we eat these, or we have these with our meals in Chinese culture. Like especially when you go to Asia, at least my family, it's always serving. There's always a soup on the table. It's like a clear broth. Maybe it's like a broth of pork bone or chicken bones, and there's seaweed and some kind of vegetable, whatever's in season, maybe a little tofu. But it makes this clear broth. Sometimes no meat, just the veggies and the seaweed. It makes this really clear, simple broth that is so soothing to drink and eat. And that warmth we say kai wei, which means open your appetite. And that open your appetite doesn't mean stimulate your appetite. It means ready your digestive tract for food. So these little lifestyle changes can make a big difference. So this is a list of changes that you could try for 30 days. And just do what you can. You don't have to do the whole list. We're not going for perfect here. But you do have to do something, and you have to commit to it. Not eating after sundown can be very helpful. And then I forgot to put it on here, but not eating past 80% full is extremely helpful. That's sort of like the TCM version of intermittent fasting, is just eat when you're hungry and only eat to 80% full. We'll keep it simple. Also, eat your heaviest meals in the morning is what we would say. That's when your digestion energy is the strongest. Again, don't rely on salads for nutrition. And then another common practice in Asian culture, is eating fermented foods. There's also always some kind of fermented food on the table. This is especially the case in Korean food. You start your meals with 8 different kinds of fermented foods on the table. So fermented foods are like kimchi, sauerkraut. There's now in grocery stores whole sections of fermented foods that you can choose from different things. I recently found a fermented seaweed, which is really good. And so you just have a tablespoon or 2 of a fermented food with every meal. That's your probiotic supplement, okay? This is the original probiotic. And then cutting damp-forming foods like we mentioned earlier. Okay, another set of generalized solutions is to prioritize your sleep. And I know this one's actually the most challenging. Because sometimes it just doesn't work to get a good night of sleep. That's okay. This is just giving you a guideline of what would be ideal and what you work towards. Going to bed by 10 p.m. you're always going to hear that recommendation from TCM practitioners, because we go by the circadian clock. We have a circadian clock. So think of how in the summertime when what is it, the crickets, or what is it that at night starts making, is it crickets chirping or frogs? But throughout the day, there's different cycles of things happening in nature that's an example of your circadian rhythm, right? So like, when the frogs come out at night and you start hearing that noise, and then they stop, and then the birds start chirping in the morning, and then they stop, and then something else happens, in the middle of the day. Your body is the same way. Your energy, different energies rise and not rise and fall, but like come in and out like waves. They strengthen, they go down. They strengthen, they go down. So going to bed by 10 p.m. gets you in prime position to be in deep sleep by 1 a.m., which is liver time. Guess what organ is so important to regulate in this transition? Liver. Liver regulation will also help you lose weight. A lot of weight gain has to do with liver congestion and just a bogged down liver. Okay, so we're going to get to some liver solutions here, but going to bed, getting yourself good sleep also really helps your liver. And I would say do the best you can, because this isn't always easy. It's a long game, right? It's not going to be perfect every day, and it's not going to be perfect right away, but it's more about working towards it. So if your sleep is really disordered, you can access a practitioner that would help you, okay? Magnesium support is something good to mention that helps a lot of people and is a mineral that is often deficient for us in modern life. And we can talk about, my favorite is one that has like glycinate and malate. You can email us if you want the exact one I like. Practicing digital sundown is really helpful. These days, our light bulbs, you can't even find an incandescent light bulb anymore. Everything's those freaking LED lights. They are so harsh and stimulating on our eyes. So hopefully, if most lights are that now, and hopefully you can dim them. And if you can't dim them, I say go for candles, honestly. That's really going to calm your nervous system, is to have candlelight at night. Obviously, be safe. Don't eat too close to bedtime either. And warm, soothing bras and herbal tea, like a few hours before bed, awesome. Will soothe your stomach and thereby soothe your heart energy. That's another concept, but soothe your stomach, soothe your heart, sleep well. And permission to nap. Please figure out a way to get yourself a nap in the afternoon. That's just a wonderful life practice. You deserve it. If you're reaching perimenopause, you deserve it. Okay, lifestyle medicine. We talked a little bit about Qigong, Tai Chi, wonderful. It helps to get out in nature. An interesting factoid about being out in the woods. Your liver, let's talk about the liver again, is of the wood element in Chinese medicine. We say the liver has the characteristics and the nature of wood. So when you go out into the forest and are literally around wood, trees, right? Branches, trunks, that is so soothing for your liver to be around the energy of wood, because the liver itself has the same energy of wood, which is to grow and sprout and spread. That's what trees do, right? So when you're around that energy, it's so supportive to your liver. So that thing about hugging a tree is legit, right? Legit. And it's specifically, we would say in Chinese medicine, good for your liver, because the liver is wood. Same thing with like if you're designing a house or you have the opportunity to design a house, bring in that wood. It's so soothing to your liver and your nervous system. Strength training, I think, is important in perimenopause, menopause. The more muscle that you can kind of build before you reach menopause, the better. Because you want to enter menopause with strong muscles and therefore strong joints. And avoid excess cardio. Stress release, aka finding ease. Where do you find ease? Write a list of things where you find that give you ease, right? These are your resources. it's good to always have a list of that so that when you feel depleted or off, just look at your list of resources for finding ease. Maybe that's, something as simple as browsing the local, like, interior home goods store I'm talking about a store that's next to me. Sometimes I just go in there and browse the candles and the, like, pretty things, and I don't buy anything. I just walk in and out. And it's soothing. I find ease in a little simple act like that. I find ease in a cup of tea with quiet, like just a moment of quiet.
Sandra?
Yes.
Share something.
Yes.
When my youngest son when he was 6, he was feeling stress, and he was saying that his heart hurt, and so we figured out that he didn't have a heart condition. And of course, that's where my mind goes because I'm medical, and I'm like, oh, what is wrong with your heart? But then I quickly realized that was his way of saying he was feeling stress or anxiety or whatever. And so I asked the school counselor to talk to him and, kind of use her mad skills and figure out, what was going on, that she could help with, And they made on big construction paper, she drew a Band-Aid, and so it was the heart Band-Aid, and so she asked him things that made him feel good or that he enjoyed and things like that, and she wrote them down on this big piece of construction paper. And so when he brought that home and I put it on the wall, like where we would see it regularly or anything like that, and so when he was feeling like, it would be read a story with mom or play with my brother, or or something like he came up with some really good kind of soothing things for him, and we had it prominently displayed and stuff, and so it was really helpful. And that's what that reminds me of when you were saying,
yes,
they soothe you. Make a list. I think make a list and put it where you can see it all the time, not like in a book or something, but like okay, yes, my heart Band-Aid list, or something.
Yes, so or make it your screensaver. Yes, and what does that help? It helps your liver, right? So everything we can do to support our liver is going to support our weight management. I think at the end of the day, after discussing all of this, sometimes I get the feeling that even though we care about our weight, when we learn from Chinese medicine what's going on in our body, I don't know, does any of you feel this, that like, gosh, that weight issue just kind of shrank a little bit in my head. Like I'm learning so much about my body as a system and how connected to nature it is, that, the weight stuff, of course, like that's what this class is for, and I know you guys are concerned with it. But there's just all this other stuff happening too, in addition to weight gain. And hopefully in learning TCM, you learn interesting things about yourself by learning about your body from this lens, that hopefully some of these ailments or problems don't feel so intense or feel so big, is my hope. That's my experience with Chinese medicine, is that like I walk in with a problem and then I learn about Chinese medicine and the way it perceives and views things, and I just feel better because it feels like it understood me, and that it follows nature in such a tight way that it just is calming and soothing. I don't know. I don't know if you guys get that from Chinese medicine. I do. That's why I went into practicing it. But okay, let me move on because I'm keeping you guys too long. Okay, so you guys can read Stress Release Finding Ease. These aren't new things, but I do want to say that community is one of the strongest ways to regulate your nervous system, is just be in community. And being in community can be as simple as like striking up a conversation with the person who makes your coffee in the coffee shop, if there isn't a big line behind you, for example, right? Or we call them bodegas here in New York. There's just like a little shop where you can just go get a drink or go get a like snack bar, and just to really say hello and like I mean, maybe this is a New York thing. Maybe you guys already do that. But in New York, we don't really talk to each other on the street. So just doing something, to be engaged with the people that like are just your neighbors or just like around you. For New Yorkers, that's a big deal. that would be, really connecting to your community. You guys might already do that, but maybe like what would be an extra step for you in connecting with your community where you are? Okay, so the other thing I want to mention is that this is one of my favorite Chinese medicine formulas that is specific to helping your digestion. So this isn't necessarily these curing pills. It's not necessarily helping your liver. Actually, it's not really targeted to the liver. It's not targeted to the kidney. It's very targeted to helping your digestion system be more efficient. So this I would say awakens the spleen. So kind of like your spleen is like a little sleep and sluggish. It awakens the spleen and it gets to work, and your stomach. And so I put this here. We're going to give you these slides. I won't go through what each grouping of herbs does, but I wanted to show you how a Chinese medicine formula is structured to help the gut, to help make your digestion more efficient. And when your digestion is efficient, that's like when you were younger. Your digestion was efficient. You could eat whatever and you didn't gain weight. You didn't hold on to excess, mass. So this curing pill helps with any kind of digestive ailment, from heartburn to bloating to you ate too much at Thanksgiving to feeling queasy, feeling nauseous, not feeling like you have an appetite. This might actually be good for when you don't feel like you have an appetite, Fozia. This is like awakening the spleen, because the spleen gets sluggish from all that dampness. So this is one of my favorite formulas, and I just laid it out here. These are all the herbs that are in curing pills. Now, I do want to mention there is an herb in here that is fermented wheat. So if you have a strong gluten intolerance, this might not be the best for you. But I will say that a lot of people with just gluten sensitivity take this and are fine. So this is more if you're like celiac, you wouldn't want to take this. But this is just to show you how Chinese medicine herbal formula is structured. So those of you that have taken the other classes in this series, I was talking more about specific formulas for each pattern. And inside each one of those formulas, there's this elegant selection of herbs that they like help each other work, right? Like, so the function of this group helps the function of another group. And so they're so synergistic. And that's what I love about Chinese herbs, is that it's not just about like putting a single herb or just using a single herb. It's about taking families of herbs and putting them together into one formula. And that's why they're so effective. Okay. You guys all have access to the learning portal. I think you've all been there. If you didn't see, I put up a tutorial using either your hand or any one of the Lanxin tools on how to work with a acupuncture point called Stomach 40. Stomach 40 is the preeminent point for busting phlegm anywhere in the body. And it's Stomach 40, so it's going to stimulate your stomach energy channel, which means it's going to talk to your stomach, which means it'll talk to your spleen, because anytime you talk to your stomach, your spleen also gets in on the game because they're a pair. So Stomach 40 is, again, the preeminent acupuncture point for all and any problem of phlegm accumulation in the body. So that means in your digestive system or in your lungs when you're coughing, okay? So if you just go to Lanxin, you go to courses and you enter the course portal through there, you will find this tutorial. And if you can't find it, just email it email us and we'll send it to you. But this, you can work with Stomach 40. You can work with it every day until you feel better, until you feel bored of Stomach 40. When you feel bored of working with a point, that means you don't need to work with it anymore. All right, let's get into specifics of like specific solutions for each pattern, and then we're done. So kidney yang is that pattern that is always cold and just doesn't have enough fire. And that's why you're always cold. So the best kinds of, everything's about warming you. If you're kidney yang deficiency, everything is about warming you. So we want to give you ginger, it's hot. Cinnamon, hot. Fennel, warm. All the like spices in chai, they're so warming. It's a beautiful formula for kidney yang deficiency. Meats, if you eat animal protein, lamb, I don't know if you know this, but lamb is considered a warming meat. So perfect for kidney yang deficiency people. Not so great if you are like a teenager who is like breaking out because they have too much heat. So you don't want to give them warming meats. Chicken with skin for the fat, that's warming. And beef, these are warming meats. Warming vegetables are like root vegetables, leeks, fennel, and roasting foods also makes them warm. So if you have a food that's a little more on the cold side and you roast it, it warms it up. You also don't want to eat too much fruit. Fruits are usually pretty cold. If you must, you can add a little ginger to balance. And no raw salads or veggies. Okay, spleen weakness, which is where most of you probably are. Did you know that blandness supports your spleen? I think this is so interesting in two ways. So bland foods means like, not having too many complex spices. So when I think of like a complex spice profile, I immediately think of like Indian food. It's such a sophisticated, intricate blend of flavors, but it's the opposite of bland, right? So, but the bland as a flavor, as an experience to your tongue, supports your spleen. So, what's an example of bland food? It's like not using too much seasoning, maybe just a little salt, maybe just like a baked sweet potato and there's nothing on it. Maybe just like plain rice congee, or me, I make a broth. It's like seaweed and cabbage. And what did I put in? Oh, I put like a Chinese yam in there the other day and I didn't put salt in it. And it didn't taste, it wasn't like, I want to have 5 bowls of this, but it was like, this is so soothing. Okay. So lean into bland if you have spleen weakness. Now, the other interesting thing about bland that I think is functional is that it makes you not want to eat a lot of it. Like you just kind of just eat until you're full because it's bland, right? It's not like, oh my God, this is so good. I just want like 5 more bites, even though I'm already full. Like you're not going to get that from eating bland foods. Food doesn't always have to have like these powerful flavor profiles, okay? And I would argue that, at least in like our like snack culture, everything's like over flavored. So you keep eating it. Right? Like food doesn't have to be so flavorful, actually. So, and that will support your spleen and that will support your weight. Warming spices are great for spleen as well, similar to kidney. These are the same ones as kidney. Tonifying means strengthening meats. So you want meats that are a little bit easier to digest. So maybe not the lambs and not the beefs, but like the chicken, the eggs, the turkey. There are some grains that are very specific to tonifying spleen, and that's Job's tear, which is like a type of pearl barley. It's not gluten. It's not a gluten. It's I forget what they categorize it at, but this is not a glutinous food. So that's strengthens the spleen. So does millet. So do aduki beans, which are those red beans. Any yellow or orange food strengthens your spleen, strengthens your stomach and spleen. There is a Asian root vegetable called shanyao. It means wild mountain yam. You can find it in Asian stores under the name yamaimo, which is the Japanese name. And it's this like sticky root. Like it has, if you peel it, first of all, it could make you a little itchy, but when you cut it, it's slimy. And that's part of its medicinal property, is that ability to create slime. So lean into slimy foods, actually, like okra, natto, which is fermented soybean. It's super slimy and stinky, but it's really good for you. What else is slimy? Oh, there's some seaweeds that are slimy. That slime is actually really good for you, and it is indicator of a very strong, like medicinal grade food, in my opinion. And avoid sugar, raw salads, veggies, simple carbs avoid because of blood sugar management. So simple carbs like pasta, it's gonna be a blood sugar event, so not great for your spleen. So you want to minimize those types of foods. And that goes along with, the modern conversations around like keto type and low carb foods, helping you manage your weight. Okay, so our liver peeps, if you've constantly liver stagnated, actually lean into sour. The sour flavor moves the liver. So lemon is great for the liver. I'm sure you've heard that before about like lemon being detoxing for the liver. We don't say it detoxes the liver, we say it moves the liver, it gets it moving. And there's other sour things like brown rice vinegar, but like brown rice vinegar is a really nice vinegar for the liver. And then one of my personal favorites is Japanese ume plums that you can find in an Asian market. But then also citrus peels. So you can go to an Asian market and find dried orange peels. I'm actually drinking tea with dried orange peel and goji berries. That's very good for liver and good for digestion, because citrus also breaks up phlegm. Citrus peels breaks phlegm. So here we've got a double whammy. We've got a little hit for the liver in a good way, and for your digestion, breaking up the phlegm. So here are just some other moving foods. Mint is a classic liver mover, used in Free and Easy Wanderer. Mint's in there. Turmeric also helps move the blood. So that's kind of like for Fosia, the circufine, right? Radishes, anything pungent moves the chi, moves stagnation. So what else is pungent? Ginger's pungent, that pungent flavor, like you go, whoa, that's pungent. Radishes, spicy in that pungent way, that's going to move chi. It's also going to help break phlegm, like break up like phlegm globs. Your beverages are like warm water and lemon, wonderful drink. Chrysanthemum tea moves the liver. Chrysanthemum's also good for your eyes, and eyes are controlled by the liver. Peppermint tea again. Rosebud tea actually is very well known for moving the chi, being a nice energy mover, good for the liver, and also good for like mood and depression. Another great one for that is raw, like St. John's wort. So you could get, if you can find raw or like dried rather, St. John's wort and rosebud, beautiful mood lifting tea. Again, aromatics and pungent things move the chi. So we spoke with Fosie a little earlier about like feeling all over the place, like irregular. And that is when the liver is responsible for regularity in the body. It's responsible for appropriate timing, which is why when people get a late or early period, or their timing of the periods all over the place, which is perimenopause, we want to regulate the liver. So you can support the liver by establishing regularity where you can. So can you eat every day at 8 in the morning? That's your breakfast time. Can you eat every day at 12 or 1 for lunch? Can you just eat at the same time? right? Try to do things at the same time. Can you go to bed at the same time? Can you wake up at the same time? Can you do that? At my grandparents' age, they could control their schedule like that. And my grandparents lived for a very long time. So I'm not saying that's why, but I think that's one of the practices that really regulated their life and helped their nervous systems not spin out of control. Okay. So, avoid irregular eating. That's not great for your liver or your digestion or your spleen. Okay. And then alcohol is no for the liver. We don't know. The liver is like, no, stop it. No more alcohol. I mean, like a little shot of something every once in a while, don't worry about it. But regular consumption of alcohol, especially if you're in the midst of like weight gain and like irregular emotions and you just feel all over the place, that's actually not a time for alcohol. I think that's all I have for you. Whew, I made it. Oh goodness, I went way over. Sorry, guys. That's what happens. It's really hard to teach Chinese medicine in an hour. I always say an hour, but I always go over for these classes. So I enjoy it. I don't mind. I hope you don't mind either. It means you're watching a pretty long playback. You can always watch part of it one day and the rest later. All right, I'll stop sharing. Well, thanks for hanging in there, everyone that's here. I hope that means that you're learning something that's meaningful to you. Before we go, if you, for anyone who's willing to share, was there anything that was particularly interesting for you, or what are you going to take home with you from today? I know there was a lot. Yeah, Fozia.
Well, one thing that really clicked for me is I'm like, I have let my liver determine my schedule. I'm like, oh, I'm in the mood to eat this morning, or I'm not in the mood to eat at 8 a.m. But I've noticed this week I've been like eating a really big breakfast at like 8 o'clock after I drop my kids off to school, and it's been really, really good for me. And so what just clicked was that I have to be in charge of my liver. I have to show my liver that, like you said, like soothe the liver, regulate the liver. It's not about like, what am I in the mood for? It's more like, what is going to be best for me? And I do a good job. I do a good job of taking care of myself, but this feels like it's clicking on a much deeper level. Because I've never been good with like a regular schedule or anything like that. But I think it's because I've let my dysregulated liver determine things. But now I get to be in charge. Yeah. It just feels like something clicked. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. And that's the emotional strength of the liver, is that like kind of like a willpower vibe, right? It's like the command. Your ability to command comes from the liver. Your ability to make decisions comes from the gallbladder. So that's you helping your liver be strong by saying, yes, I'm going to create that, right? And sometimes I think of the liver as like very similar to small children, right? Like when you don't give them boundaries and when you don't give them regularity, they're all over the place. And our liver is very similar to small children.
That's really funny, and I will never forget that.
And it's okay to tell your children when to go to bed. In fact, you must.
I do. I have to, because if they don't go to bed, I can't go to bed.
Right. And it's just they're all over the place if they don't get what they need when they, with that regularity. So awesome. Thank you. Susan, do you have something? Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you unmuted. So.
Oh.
No, you don't have to.
This was the first time I could join live. I was just kind of watching the recordings. And I just wanted to thank you for this whole series. It has been very helpful. I've started to implement some of your suggestions. I'm looking into herbs. I'm very much kidney yin and liver and spleen. So I need to look more into that. But my sleeping has been better. And hot flashes have been better. So
really?
this is helpful. This is helpful. Yes, absolutely.
Tell me what you think tell me what the main things you've been implementing, and so everyone can learn and maybe get some similar.
Warming things. I get the hot flashes, so the idea of drinking something warm, I'm like, oh my gosh, that's not going to help. I'm going to get hotter. But I started with Spring Force Qigong a couple of years ago. Master Lin talks a lot about warming your water. So I've been trying to incorporate more of that. I don't remember the name of the water you suggested before with the chia seeds and the lemon in that. I drink that. I'm just staying more hydrated, holding things that are cool, no lights in the bedroom, kind of, calm things down that way. But it's all helping, but I do need to look into more herbs. I think that would be helpful to get the systems more under control. Like you say, in the Western world, we think hormones, and that's not the answer for all of it. There's something wrong. We're under the impression that this is, and it may be kind of normal, but I mean, like the hot flashes and the night sweats and the fatigue and the irritability. You don't see that in other countries. You see that here.
Yeah.
And it's not normal. When a doctor says, well, you're of a certain age and that's what you should expect. No.
I really hate hearing that. It really, as a TCM practitioner, we've always kind of been on the defense from the medical world. And I don't want to be that way, but it's hard sometimes because they just don't get it.
But look how long this has been around. I mean, just like I say, with the Qigong, learning about the Taoist perspective and the 5 elements and all that, how many thousands of years have people been practicing? It works.
Yes.
It works.
Yes, and Chinese medicine is really a system that came out of an acute observation of nature and nature's patterns. Mm-hmm. So it's basically nature's law. And we're just following nature's law and observing it and honoring it. And, from watching nature's law, they came to this body of knowledge that, helps you understand about your power apps, which is your spleen, your kidney, your liver, and your lungs and your heart. So it's such a beautiful medicine, and I feel it really helps people connect with themselves when they learn it and experience it, that you can't really get from our Western medical system. And there's something about being able to connect to yourself and the understanding of yourself in that way that alone is so healing. And that's what's so beautiful about these traditional medicines, and that would include Ayurveda as well. I just don't understand Ayurveda, but it's very similar to Chinese medicine. But I'm so happy to hear that your hot flashes have been able to go down. I think that Americans are dehydrated. And
that was the other thing. Absolutely. Yeah. Yes.
And they don't realize it. And a lot of people say to me, but I drink so much water. And it's like, I don't know if that's hydrating you.
Right. Or it's not getting where it's supposed to be because these other systems aren't working. The water system isn't working. And yes, if we would work more with nature, well, we're in nature. That's this planet, right?
Right.
We're working against it. If we would work with it, we'd be better off.
Yeah. And when you work with it, things work. Because nature works.
Yes.
And where people get stuck is just because we can get stuck in cases too, right? But it's because there's complexity or, just our minds can really get in our way. And so a lot of this is also about learning how to drop into ease and drop out of the tension that we have. So thank you so much for coming. And
thank you so much, Sandra. I've like I say, this was my first one I could attend live, and I appreciate the replays. But I'm learning from you, so thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm happy to hear that, and I'm happy to hear that. Thank you. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for coming, and please let me know about anything that changes for you, especially in a positive way, like it did for Susan and Fozia and Samantha, right, too. And really helps because the more people know that these simple things can be so game changing, then it just helps in a world right now where we need simple things that don't cost a lot of money to help people's health. So thank you, A, for coming. Please share, what we're doing. Like, I really am feeling so strongly about the state of healthcare right now. I want to be able to help people, get access to this knowledge. I want people to know that you don't have to buy expensive supplements to feel better. It can be as simple as just warm water. People don't know this stuff, so please share this with your friends. Invite them to come to our classes. We're on a mission to help people, and like help people in an economic climate that is not so prosperous for a lot of people. So I hope that Chinese medicine can fill in the gap that our medical system just isn't meeting, and it's not doing enough for everyday health for everyday people. So I hope that we can do that together, and then I hope you can help me. So thanks, everybody, especially for menopause, because people are lost out there.
Yeah, I'm sharing stuff with my patients when they have because I see a lot of people for, I specialize in pediatric allergy, immunology, asthma. So there's a lot of eczema. So a lot of people come and they think they have a food allergy, but it's an intolerance, and it's a digestive thing. So I end up counseling to some extent on things to ease the digestion and stuff. And so I've been telling them, and I've been doing it more consistently now about, warm foods and room temperature water, and, kind of sweet tea is not hydrating, even though there's water in it, because I'm in North Carolina, so it's just, I grew up in California and Los Angeles, and so coming out here and they're just like, here, drink this iced tea, and you're just like,
oh, I know. I have a theory that that children that go to daycare and kindergarten are getting way more colds and flus than they would get if they didn't have all those iced things. And American children are just popsicle is like a main food. Is like a food group is popsicles. And that's another reason why as adults we crave I don't crave ice, but Americans that grew up that way, I think they crave ice because there's an association with childhood treat. And so it's we're sort of starting to program ice into their system. It's not great, actually sometime if you ever want to, we have amazing Chinese medical topicals for eczema. If your patients are, don't want to do the steroid route, or, I'm happy to share some of them with you just so you can sample them. But Chinese medicine and eczema is very helpful. Very helpful.
Yeah, I see it just pretty significant eczema, and there are a lot of family. I'm not go directly to steroids and stuff or the brand thing. I always just say, you just got to get slimy. That's it doesn't have to say eczema on the label or anything like that. But yeah, I mean, when I do try and integrate, some people are receptive to when I say, warm stuff and hydrating fluids and, and foods, not just water, all that stuff. And even with eczema, being hydrated from the inside is super important. So try to
important.
But yeah, we're always, I'm always looking to try and help them because I don't want to slime babies up with head to toe.
No. And these topicals I'm talking about are made by my teacher. He's a master of Chinese medicine dermatology. And they're all herbal, So, and they're soothing, and they're interesting products. Even just conceptually, they're very, very interesting. So, anyway, just FYI that exists.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. Have a wonderful night. I hope you sleep well, and do keep me posted on how you're doing.
Sounds good.
Thank Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Bye.
Um,